Thank you, Bianca. Vanessa?
Hi, my name is Vanessa Felix. I am a council member, self-advocate.
Terrific. Thank you, Vanessa. Eric? Community member and disability advocate. My camera and mic just went down. Okay, noted. Thank you, Eric. Kathy?
Hi, this is Kathy Lewandowski. I chair the work plan committee and sit on a couple of other committees, and I have a family member with IDD.
Thank you, Kathy. CJ?
Sorry, trying to find the mute button. Good morning, everyone. CJ Loisel. I am our access representative, the assistant director of our division of behavioral health and housing here at Access, and I'm also the guardian sister of an adult with developmental disabilities.
Thank you. Kristen Mackey.
Good morning, everybody. Kristen Mackey. I am the administrator for vocational rehabilitation in Arizona.
Thank you. Gabriella?
Good morning, Gabby Orozco, mom to Joshua, and assistant director for Ideal Care, president for Ghana Parent Support Group, Spanish Parent Support Group. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Kelly?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Roberts. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for Human Development at Northern Arizona University, and I'm a council member. Good to see y'all.
Perfect. Thank you, Kelly. Vijay?
Good morning. I'm Vijay Sari, a parent and sister to individuals with IDD. I'm a council member and executive committee member.
Thank you, Vijay. Mary?
Hi, I'm Mary Slaughter, and I have the power of attorney and represent a woman who's 88 years old and was institutionalized as a council member. And I'm on the Navigation and Access Committee.
Thank you, Mary. Mateo?
Hi, my name is Mateo Treetop. I am a self-advocate.
Thank you, Mateo. Jana?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Jana Merle, council member and parent of an adult son with a developmental disability, and I chair the System Access and Navigation Committee. Good morning.
Great. Thank you, Jana. And last but not least, Sophie?
I am a self-advocate, and John, I'm sorry to say it, but I have my award.
Thank you, Sophie. Okay, did I miss any other council members? All right. I'm going to move the staff. I'll start with John.
Good morning, everyone. John Myers, Executive Director of the Council.
Thank you. Sarah?
Sarah Roof, Communications Director for ADDPC. Good morning.
Okay, Sarah. Jason?
Morning, everyone. Jason Snee here, Research and Communication Specialist.
Thank you, Jason. Lonnie?
Lonnie St. Cyr, Fiscal Manager. Good morning.
Great. And I'm Marcy Crane. I'm the Contracts Manager. Michael Leva is out today. And then I'm going to move on to guests. So, Brittany? Chipley?
Good morning, everyone. Brittany Chipley here. I am the Executive Director of AZ Able.
Thank you, Brittany. Manuel Salazar?
Hello, I'm Manuel Salazar. Everyone just calls me Manny. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for a company called Take Charge America, and we do education. But I did work for a couple of different agencies. I was the Executive Director in Arizona for 2 programs that work in this space. And so we're trying to marry my current life with that past life and do education in this space for financial awareness and some other categories, because we focus on financial education. And so we were asked to attend this. This is also for Wanda Williams. She also works with our organization, and we're just learning about this environment and see if there's an opportunity here. So thank you for allowing us to attend.
Absolutely. Thank you. JC?
Morning, this is JC Farkas. I am the director at the Sonoran Center for Excellence in Disabilities at the University of Arizona.
Thank you, JC. Wanda Williams?
Good morning. My name is Wanda Williams. I'm the manager of education at Take Charge America.
Thank you. And then Renee Washington, Billy Washington? Member of the community. Thank you. Is there any other public members?
I think you got everybody that I can see. If we have missed you, please speak up. Okay. Marcy, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. Welcome. We're going to move on to agenda item B. That is the review and approval of our minutes from our full council meeting from June 21st, 2024. I hope everybody had time to review those minutes. They're extensive. Are there any questions or comments or changes that need to be made to those minutes before I call for a motion? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call for a motion to approve the minutes as written for our full council meeting on June 21st, 2024. Do I have a motion?
Aye.
Sophie, thank you, Sophie. Do I have a second?
This is Jesse. I'll second.
Jesse, thank you so much. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Is anyone abstaining? Thank you. And Eric, we see your aye vote. Thank you so much. Motion carries. All right, agenda item C, our fiscal contract update with Lonnie.
Hey, everyone. Hopefully you're able to see the ADDPC financial update.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Melissa. So the council has fully spent or liquidated the allotment for fiscal year 2022 in the amount of $1,500,930. ACL granted a no-cost extension for fiscal year 2022 funding, extending the project period through September 30th of this year. The council has fully obligated these and completed the work by the September 2024 deadline. Next, the council has received a total allotment of $1,501,328 for fiscal year 2023. The council has fully obligated these funds, and there's approximately $211,051 remaining to be liquidated. The original obligation and project period requirements were through September 30th of this year, with the final report being due September 30th of 2025. However, the council has requested a no-cost extension for the performance. We have been told the extension has been approved. However, we have not seen the official notice of award yet. So we don't really know the specifics of the extension, but just know that what we were requesting was an extension of the period of performance. So that way we had a little bit more time to do the work, as we've already met the obligation requirement. And then finally, the council received 4 allotments for fiscal year 2024. This brought our current award amount to $1,497,202. The obligation and project periods are through September 30th of 2025, and there's approximately $262,510 remaining to be obligated, much of which will be taken care of with the items to be voted on later on the agenda. Any questions on this sheet? Okay, next I'm going to briefly touch on the public health workforce within the Disability Network Award. There's no sheet for this. We had previously shown that we had fully spent it. So the council has received an additional award in the amount of $95,319 to expand public health workforce within the Disability Network. These funds had been tracked and reported on separately. The obligation and project period were through September 30th of 2024, so this month. However, the project concluded early and we had fully spent the 95,319. So just wanted to touch base and let you know that we had met both the obligation and project period for those funds, and I believe the program report is due next month. Next, going on to the council funded projects. I apologize. Everything's really small, but it just shows how much we kind of have going on. This sheet shows all the current projects funded by the council. All the proposals voted on during the June full council meeting are now reflected on this sheet. We are following up with any outstanding invoices for the contracts that ended in June. And you can see a lot of projects ended in June, many of which were renewed for a second year or additional funding. Any questions on this sheet? Okay, this is the last and final sheet. And again, I apologize that the size is so small, guys. So this sheet has been updated to reflect the projects outlined in the fiscal years 2024, 2025, and 2026 work plans, as well as the funding that has already been approved for the prior years. The items highlighted in yellow are the projects to be voted on later on in the agenda. Please note that the trauma-informed and crisis response training items, these two here, they were each allotted for $50,000. They've now been combined into one project for $100,000, and you'll see that later. And just note that we have not received anything regarding the federal fiscal year 25 award yet. And just know that these funds will be used primarily for projects to be decided on for the fiscal year 2026 work plan. Currently, there's an anticipated surplus of $270,000 for the 25 funds that we have yet to receive or know what our true award amount is going to be. So just know that's an estimate. Any questions on this sheet? Okay, that's it for me.
Okay, Lonnie, thank you so much. Agenda item D, our executive director report with John. Fearless leader, John.
All right. Thank you once again. Appreciate you all being here this morning. I'll see if I can my screen to share so you can see the items on my report. The first thing I want to mention is the submission of our fiscal year 2025 and 2026 annual work plans. As we discussed at the June meeting, those plans were due on August 15th. They have been submitted, and I'm pleased to let you know they have been approved with actually no comments whatsoever from our folks at ACL. So thanks to all of you for your input. Thanks to the work plan committee for its guidance on this, and especially thanks to the staff for the tremendous work they did in putting the work plan together. I certainly, in my years here, we have not submitted a work plan that didn't receive at least some kind of comment. So we feel like we kind of hit it out of the ballpark with the upcoming year plans. I do want to note, Kathy Lewandowski will be speaking more about this during her report a little bit later. We provided you two different copies of the work plan. One is the version that we submit in what's known as the Verity system, which is the system that ACL uses for our report planning and for our program performance reports at the end of every year. We also provided you just yesterday, so many of you may not have seen it, we posted it on the website, a version that's used by the work plan committee when they review our work plan. The reason I showed you the two different versions is the first, the ACL version, the Verity version, includes all of the various detail that we have to put into the report, some of which, well, neither of the versions is especially easy to read if you're not kind of immersed in this environment. But I wanted you to get a sense of all of the various areas in which we have to provide data and narrative in order to support our work plan. It's really, really extensive, really time consuming and labor intensive. And I think it shows, again, the stellar work that this staff had done to put the plan together. I apologize again that neither of those versions is especially easy to read, but they're the best we have. And so I encourage you to take a look. The version the committee uses, the advantage of that is it shows the dollar amount being allocated for each of the different goal and activity areas. So if you're interested in how we're breaking down the funds the council is spending, that version, which looks very much like a spreadsheet, that is a good version to look at to get a sense of the financial breakdown. As a sort of a nerdy tag on to this, the councils around the country were just notified yesterday that as of September 30th of this year, ACL is no longer going to be using the Verity system for our annual reporting and our work plan submissions and so forth. So just as we had sort of begrudgingly gotten comfortable with the frustrations and the difficulties of working with Verity, and we sort of got comfortable with them, they're now going to change the system on us. So we don't know what the new system is going to look like. They haven't identified what it's going to be. But yes, Kristen, of course, it's the way government works, right? As soon as something becomes comfortable for people, it has to change. So we will know hopefully soon what the new system is going to be like. For our PPR planning for this year, we're going to continue with the same calendar that we have established, with anticipating that it would be due on December 30th. So whatever happens, we will be prepared by the end of the year to submit that PPR. But just know that in future years, we'll be presenting you some entirely different format, and we have no idea what it's going to look like right now. I also want to mention, on the topic of work plans, we will be beginning the process of developing our 2027 to 2023 or 2031 5-year plan or state plan early in calendar year 2025. It's a very extensive process. The 5-year plan will be due in August of 2026, but there is so much work involved in that it typically takes a year and a half or more to get that ready. So we're going to be beginning the process very soon. We will be calling upon some members of the council to serve on an ad hoc committee to help guide that process. We'll talk about that a little bit later or offline. But part of this work, or part of this 5-year plan development, requires that we reach out to communities around the state, that we get public input, get community perspectives on what we're doing and what we should be doing. So in order to do that, we will need to reach out into communities far and wide, well beyond the valley. And so we want to involve individuals who represent those communities, have ties to those communities, and can help us get face-to-face with members, with residents of those communities. So we'll be looking to a number of you to help guide that process as we move forward. Regarding the no-cost extension request, Lonnie mentioned that had been approved. Once again, we don't have a formal letter yet. I just have word from our representative at ACL that he has signed off on it, and it is working its way through the chain right now. The money for that no-cost extension really was primarily for work on our data hub, or our disability index. It's a page on our website, one that we think is quite valuable, provides extensive data about individuals with disabilities around the state of Arizona, and starting this year is providing much more specific data about individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, because we now have a data sharing agreement with DES and DDD to provide us some data about the all-tex population in the state. So we feel really good about where that's going. The contractor we're working with at ASU needed a little more time to incorporate some federal data as well as some state data. And so we requested the no-cost extension in order to give him that time and be able to pay him through the end of the current contract period. So that contract is going to extend through January 31st of next year. And we'll provide further updates, of course, as we go along. I wanted to mention that we also are conducting a community survey right now. Some of you may have seen it. I hope all of you have seen it, and that many of you have responded to it. We occasionally try to find out what people around the state think about our work, and whether they think there are areas we need to work on. But we also want to understand any particular challenges they are facing in their communities. So we are currently conducting a community survey. That survey will be open until the end of next week, September 27th. I'm going to ask Sarah if she could post the link to the survey in the chat. If she hasn't done that already, I appreciate if she would do that. We issued the survey in the middle of August, and we anticipated that we were going to close it around September 10th, but we had some technological issues, some things that were out of our control that had to do with our our email system subscription that DES manages. And anyway, we just decided we were going to extend the period for the survey to be open so we could get more responses. As we get those in, as we have a chance to analyze those, we will, of course, report on that to the committee. So look at our November meeting, look for more information shared with you about what the responses were from community members around the state. That will also help to inform some of the work we do on the work plan development for the state plan development, I'm sorry, for 2027 to 2031. Next item is our council budget, which requires the council's approval. And so I want to go through a couple of things on the budget, and then Melissa, I will turn it over to you to call for a vote. We are required by federal law to get council's approval of our annual administrative or operating budget. Couple of things to note on this, just as we noted last year, many of the functions that a normal business would undertake, we undertake, but they are not managed by us. So for example, all of our personnel costs and benefits and so forth are provided to staff through the state of Arizona because we have a designated state agency, DES. So if you look at this budget, you'll see a personnel services line that looks pretty small. You'll see some lines where there are no figures at all, such as occupancy, capital expenses. We are not actually allowed to purchase any capital items. Those are purchased on our behalf by DES. And there's some other lines there that will look a little bit lower than you would expect. In large part, that's because those things are handled outside of us by DES, by the procurement office or the financial services offices within DES. And so they don't reflect necessarily on what we present as our administrative budget. It should also be noted that for some of our personnel costs, they are built into the grant and project budgets that you see at the bottom of the page. And I'm going to enlarge this. I apologize. That's a little small. But you can, as you see in the grant and project budget, a number of salary items are actually built into the costs of those projects, managing those projects, or actually operating those projects. Mike Leva, for example, runs a number of efforts on behalf of the staff that are directly related to program, as opposed to us contracting out for some of those programs. Probably not a very good explanation, but in any case, just know that this budget doesn't necessarily reflect everything the council's money gets spent on, but that's because some things are managed by other departments within DES. In any case, I am always happy to answer questions about this. Lonnie is actually a much better person to answer more detailed questions. And if I've missed anything, Lonnie, I would ask you to chime in and explain anything that might be kind of still mysterious.
No, you did a pretty good job. So yeah, we're kind of limited to 30% for administrative operating budget. Generally, we don't spend that full amount. As John had mentioned, the personnel and ERE lines look significantly smaller than they probably should, because the work that is put towards, goal area 5-year state plan projects can be billed to those specific goal areas. So a lot of administrative work is actually under the grant project budget period, budget section. Sorry, guys. So yeah, just know that this is not the amount that we're getting paid. The majority of it is down here in the grant area project portion. Also wanted to point out that our travel and in-state, our travel out of state and in-state was significantly more than what we had anticipated. And again, we didn't know what that was going to look like coming out of the pandemic. So yeah, we were significantly higher in those areas. And also we're budgeting significantly more for the professional and outside services, because as John had mentioned, we're going to start working on our 5-year state plan, and we'll probably need to contract out some of that work. Now, granted, this amount is not a full representative amount of what that will be. We just haven't identified who the contractor will be, and there is no contract in place. It will take quite a while for us to determine that, and also a significant amount of time for the work to be done. So this is just the start of that 5-year planning process being kind of factored into the budget. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, the last thing I would also add to that is you'll notice that even at the bottom, the dollar figure, the 1,218,500 does not comport with the dollar figures that Lonnie showed about our allocation from the federal government for next year. Things get even further complicated for us because Lonnie is always managing 3 different budget years at any one time, because we have we get our allotment, and then we have multiple years in order to allocate the money and then have the money expended. So again, she's much better at explaining this than I am, but please understand that there's constant fluctuation in the amount we have available, the amount we're spending, the amount we're anticipating, and of course, because we're likely to see another continuing resolution from Congress before we get a final budget. We have no idea what our allocation for FY25 is going to be. We can only speculate at this point. So a lot of things are constantly in flux, and a lot of things just kind of have to be managed as they come at us. So again, not a very satisfactory answer or explanation, I'm sure, but this is as close a representation as we can provide to what our expenses are going to look like for the coming year.
Thank you, John. Well, it is what it is, right? Working in government. So thank you so much. We do need to vote on this budget. So I am going to call for a vote to approve the ADDPC federal fiscal year 2025 administrative budget as written. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move.
Was that Bijette first?
Yes.
Sure. Okay. Okay, Bijette, thank you. And do I have a second?
I'll second then.
Thank you, Monica. All those in favor of approval, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Sorry about that. All those opposed, please say nay. Is anyone abstaining or not voting? Okay, motion carries. Budget passes. Thank you. All right, John.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. And the final thing that I want to mention is our calendar of meeting dates for federal fiscal year 2025, which of course runs October through September. October this year through September of next year. This also was shared with you as part of the packet for today. As you can see, the executive committee will continue to meet on the Friday prior to council meetings. Council meetings will start November of this year, November 22nd, and the last one will be September 26th of 2025. We worked assiduously to try and avoid any conflicts with other events. I hope we've been successful. Ran it past the executive committee last week, and we didn't run into any conflicts with any of the organizations those individuals represent. So barring any unforeseen circumstances, this will be our calendar of meetings for the coming year, starting in November of this year. One additional note on this is, starting in November of this year, we are going to go back to in-person meetings with a hybrid option for anybody who is unable to attend in person. We will hold the meeting at the council office in Central Phoenix, and we welcome any and all who wish to join us for those meetings. We will have the technology set up for people who can't attend in person to join us online. And for those who are outside of Maricopa County, we do have a reimbursement policy for travel, so we can provide that information to you if you need to come in, if you need to drive in or come in the day before. We can provide for lodging, for mileage, and so forth. Lonnie and others on the staff can provide the appropriate information to you if you decide to come from outside Maricopa County to be part of our meetings. And that information will be shared with you as we get closer to our November meeting. The executive committee meetings will still continue to be online only, but the full council meetings will be in-person / hybrid. Any questions related to the meeting dates? Oh, I did want to mention also, after the November 22nd meeting, we are going to hold an open house at the council office. And we will be inviting representatives of the community, folks from state agencies, from partner provider agencies and other advocacy organizations that we work with. It's been a long time since we have had members of the public in any large number in the council office. We'd like to, I guess, reintroduce them to the work we're doing and have conversations with them and just kind of give them a sense of what's going on at the council. So we're going to host an open house after the November 22nd council meeting, and we hope many or all of you will attend, and we certainly will do our best to get a large number of folks from the public to be here as well. Any questions related to the meeting dates? Okay. I think that is the end of my report.
Thank you, John. That was very thorough, lengthy today. Give you a hard time. I am very excited about moving to the full council in person and hybrid options again. It's been a very long time with so many council members we've never met face to face. So it would be terrific to connect with any of you that are willing to come in person. I will be there for sure. So thank you so much. We're going to move on to agenda item E, our committee work group reports. But at the beginning of that, we are going to review 3 grant proposals and then vote on each of them separately. So Monica, Lonnie, and Marcy will be doing that once our screen craziness is fixed here.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So am I up right now then?
Yep, go for it, Monica.
Okay. Okay. We met a couple weeks ago and we had the 3 grant proposals, but the committee was given a summary of them, which Marcy and Lonnie will report on, and we did not vote on them because of the budget. Is that good enough, Lonnie?
Yeah, that was very good, Monica. So we were working through some internal discussions before approving the final budget submitted for the 3 proposals. So yeah, that is kind of why the grants committee did not vote on these, but it was sent to executive and they all reviewed and voted on them. Yeah. Marcy, do you want to begin?
I'll actually cover all 3, and because we're a little bit behind schedule, I may try to be brief on each of these. And I know JC's on the call, so if I'll probably ask her to clarify anything if I misstate anything in these 3 proposals. They're each with the Sonoran Center. And as stated, we had to finalize just a couple of budget items with the proposals, and it actually needed clarification from our federal funders as well because of the type of cost. We did work through these, but that did not change the award amount. It's more of a line item. So what you have in front of you as the first proposal submitted by the Sonoran Center, it is a work plan under our safety goal to address crisis response and trauma-informed care. It was something in our work plan for several years that was broken out into separate activities, but it was best to combine them. And since we had a report that was recently completed last year on behavioral health and crisis response, JC did take the time to review that as well as another report, and she provided a proposal to how she would move forward on addressing both aspects of this. So what you have in front of you is $100,000, and it's her proposal is broken out into mainly in 2 big categories. If funded, the Sonoran Center will develop a trauma-informed care curricula. And the first thing as part of doing that is they plan to conduct a lit review, create an inventory and needs assessment survey, and then distribute the assessment, analyze the data, and then create a report on how they will develop the curriculum. They also plan on interviewing 10 individuals and organizations who have developed trainings around this area so that they have a foundational model for trauma on specific content for health professionals. They will then pilot the curriculum with community advisors, council members, self-advocates, families, and disability professionals. And then if renewed, they will finalize that curriculum because really the first year will be to pilot it, analyze it, do an evaluation, and then refine it for the second year for a broader community focus. The second part of this proposal was to conduct outreach and dissemination. And what's unique about this and what I think is really important to highlight is they do plan to identify and create a list of institutes of higher education courses and educational opportunities for students to include the content on trauma crisis responses for people with IDD, so that students are now aware as they enter into their professional careers that this topic does impact our population, and they need to be very cognizant of it and how they will address it in their professional career. They plan to develop and share 2 stories from the IDD community regarding access for behavioral health and crisis-related care, and develop workshops for individuals with IDD and families on how to access behavioral health services, how to create crisis support through legal options, and then develop a workshop that will be online at community events and conferences. If funded, this contract will be in place for 1 year. I do have to develop an ISA contract for it, but it will technically begin on or after October 1st, running through September 30th. We will review all of their information as we do with all contracts to ensure that it aligns with what they are completing and agree to do. And then if appropriate, and they've met most of their objectives within 3 months prior to the end of the contract, we will ask them to submit a renewal. And JC did outline a little bit of some information on what they would consider for their second year, which is refine the curricula and then develop expanded modules for audiences such as educators, law enforcement, first responders, and behavioral health crisis lines, which I think is really important to ensure that there's other folks really engaged in this topic. So that is there's other, on the second page of my summary, there's additional information about year 2, but I just wanted to cover year 1. Any questions that I could try to address in this proposal?
Okay, it doesn't sound like you have any questions.
Great.
So hearing no questions or comments, I am going to call for a vote to approve the Crisis Response and Trauma-Informed Care from the University of Arizona Sonoran Center for Excellence in Disabilities in the amount of $100,000. Do I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Kathy, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who was that second? I heard a man's voice. Who was that?
That was me, Sophie.
Oh, Sophie. There were other microphones going off too. Okay, Sophie, thank you so much. All those in favor of approval, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Is anyone abstaining? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Marcy. Our
Thanks.
second grant.
Sure. The second one came in through a competitive solicitation process that we released earlier this summer. To the title of it was to a collaborative approach to better respond to sexual violence of individuals with IDD. It is a continuation of the council's work in this area. Previously, the ARC of the United States with the ARC of Arizona had a contract for 2 years to really kind of proceed forward with what the work was done under Erica McFadden early on when she was with our office. And so this is just enhancing it further, but more of a systems change focus. And we identified 4 key areas for applicants to respond to. We did, through our process, for those who are unfamiliar, we utilize an outside evaluation panel to review our proposals with staff as only technical advisors. So staff does not vote on any of these and make a recommendation. It really comes from the outside panel. And they recommended, out of the 3 proposals, the Sonoran Center as the best one to move forward on this area. The 4 required objectives. So in my summary, I kind of give some background. I do want to highlight, and we're excited that Lynn Tomas is going to be presenting on her report, because her report was the basis for the scope of work. Her report that was just recently released about 2 months ago, Sexual Violence Told Through the Lived Experiences of Survivors, Families, and Professionals, the Impact of Sexual Violence on People with IDD. Highly important work that she did over 2 years, maybe a little longer than that we we're waiting for the report to come out, and it was excellent. And I hope you guys get a chance to read it, but if not, you'll hear a little snippet of it from her later on in the agenda. Her report had several recommendations, and we highlighted some of the key ones for applicants to address. The first one being, obviously, with this work, there has to be some sort of a board or committee to identify a strategic plan in key areas to move forward. And so we wanted to know from the applicant how they would develop a really committee that pulled in a lot of key folks from different agencies, family members, individuals with IDD, other disability groups, and make sure that folks are invited to the table so that they could work on this issue. And we did highlight a couple of key agencies for them to address. And so the Sonoran Center had a very comprehensive 26-member committee, and I think there probably might be more, but they went into a lot of detail about how they wanted a commitment from these members who would be invited to participate, and they had to demonstrate experience or commitment to disability advocacy and or sexual violence and risk reduction. They have to have a professional or personal background in this field. The lived experience of victims, survivors, abuse, exploitation, neglect is very important, obviously, in this work. And so they will obviously be important to participate. And the ability to contribute time and resources to committee activities. And I think that's the key thing is with all of us on so many different committees and boards, we want to make sure that folks who are identified have the commitment and have the time to participate so that the work does not fall through the cracks. And so they do plan on pulling this committee together, perhaps having several standing committees that U of A staff will oversee, and a continuous loop of tracking the work, reporting it, documenting the work, ensuring that, as I said, things do not fall through the cracks. And they will have this in place by November 2024. The second criteria that was important was to review the existing resources that were developed under the Arizona Sexual Violence and Disability Network, and with ACES-DV and other entities that did have the previous contract. They have a lot of information they have created, resources, videos, training, but one of the things we wanted to make sure is that the new applicant was able to identify those resources that needed to be updated, identify new topics that need to be created, inventory everything, and make sure that the information was going to be in plain language and culturally appropriate and understandable. So the Sonoran Center is going to review that and maintain all the resources in the centralized online repository that is hosted on their website. And it's going to be easily navigated, easily searched and navigatable. So that was a key area, is to start coordinating those resources and make sure that it's current and updated. The third criteria was to identify and address at the systems level at least 2 policies that needed to be developed that were new and or enhanced to support individuals with IDD who have been victims of sexual violence. The policies should address impacts on the victims and survivors and their families. The Sonoran Center, obviously with this work that Dr. Tomasa did, they had identified a number of areas, but what the committee or what this application is going to address specifically is mandatory and optional training for DDD vendors and staff, support coordinators, and IOC committee members and community organizations, and then access and DDD incident flow chart assessment. Part of the application behind all this information, in summary, it has a number of flow charts in their applications, and I could not follow anything. So I'm sure they're going to begin to tackle that area to figure out, where are the gaps and how to streamline it. So they were chosen because obviously they represent a significant processes that the systems use to measure performance. The impact and outcomes for the individual served may not be clearly defined, and the community may not fully understand where the gaps and improvements can be made. And then the last requirement for the applicants to address was to engage with policymakers and elected officials to propose new policy changes that will strengthen the existing laws for the prevention of abuse, neglect, proper reporting, investigating allegations of sexual violence towards individuals with IDD. Legislation was not the key thing to be enacted by this grant, but effort must be shown that the applicant is actively pursuing policy change and educating policymakers and legislators. And I do just want to notate that our grant does prohibit any of our contractors to lobby or to state it another way, to meet with legislators to ensure that they vote a certain way. You can educate our policymakers and educators all day long on various topics. And what the Sonoran Youth Center will do is they will rely on their partnerships with others if need be, if there's going to be an opportunity or needed opportunity for lobbying on specific bills, but they will develop information and resources and research that information and present it to their partners and through their committee if that was going to be the case. But obviously, we do want to make sure that our policymakers still stay on top of this issue. With that, the contract amount is $75,000 for this contract for the first year, and if approved, it will be in place beginning this October through September 30th of next year. Questions that I can answer?
Okay, thank you so much, Marcy. Hearing no questions, I'm going to call for a motion to approve the collaborative approach to better respond to sexual violence against individuals with IDD from UA Sonoran Center in the amount of $75,000. Do I have a motion?
This is JJ, so moved.
Thank you, JJ. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Sophie. All those in favor of approval, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. Is anyone abstaining? Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much.
Okay, last one. A very exciting one. We are tasked with, in our work plan, to address a targeted disparity objective, and we've had this in place since, I believe, the inception probably of 2021, and it's really to address a subpopulation that doesn't always get the focus. And we know that in Arizona, with 22 Native American tribes, sometimes they're not always easily thought of as people with IDD and families who need services and supports, or how to engage with them on a consistent and ongoing basis. And so the Sonoran Center's Circle of Indigenous Empowerment is the name of the title of their fourth year proposal, because this has been running for the last 3 years. They've done a terrific number of work and engagement with a number of tribes, and they are coming in for $120,000 for their fourth year. What is so unique about this is that the JC, I think beginning of last year, they hired a new program manager, and she is Native American, and she hit the ground running tremendously. The first 2 years was really to just kind of begin to get the foundational task kind of implemented in the first 2 years. It was really to kind of establish the presence, to meet with some of the tribal members in person, figure out how they were going to create materials and do presentations and outreach efforts. And so really under the first 2 years, now that the foundation has been established, and that was under Wendy Parent Johnson, and then JC came on board, they've really taken a different focus and expanded it in their fourth year and their third year and fourth year. So they have renamed this to the Circle of Indigenous Empowerment. They do outreach to the 22 tribal nations in Arizona, as well as nationally, and they have national contacts as well, serving and reaching out to other partnerships. And the benefit of this is that they provide culturally sensitive programs to amplify the awareness of disability services, advocacy, and support within the Native American population across Arizona primarily, but they do a number of outreach efforts and other tribal nations around the country are interested in what Arizona is doing. They also do monthly webinar series, and to date, they've had, well, I tracked at least the first 3 quarters of it. About 439 individuals have attended, but if you look at the summary, 192 individuals designated or notified through information, through registration, other tribal affiliations. So they are doing a number of outreach efforts, and professionals trained as well, 327 professionals, and then families and individuals that participate. So the Native Center going forward in their 4th year, their proposal is really detailed, but I'm just going to cover the titles of their objectives and the target disparity, which is really reaching out to the Navajo youth in that are in transition from high school and want jobs and seeking employment. So that's their 5th objective. Their first objective is to expand the outreach and engage with 16 tribal education and health departments and 3 tribal colleges to identify disability and workforce needs. They plan to expand the outreach and engagement to, as we know that tribes have tribal education and health departments, which oversee K through 12, adult education and higher education assistance, and voc rehab and supportive employment. And so they plan to do further engagement in that area. The second objective is to strengthen Native youth and adult workforce resources and opportunities in 3 tribal communities. They have already met with the Navajo Nation, the Tohono O'odham Nation, Hopi Tribe, Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community, Gila River Indian Community, Pasco Yaqui, and White Mountain Apache Voc Rehab and affiliated schools. So they still continue to plan to strengthen that and move forward on other opportunities for these tribal communities. Their third objective is to expand their monthly training, their webinar trainings, and continue educational opportunities for all stakeholders to increase their awareness on disabilities in Arizona tribal nations. As this contract ends this September, they would have held their 12th webinar. So they've held monthly webinars on a variety of different topics that are pertinent to the tribal communities, key stakeholders, healthcare providers, and they've also developed resources on traumatic brain injury, college transition services, hearing impairment in tribal communities, and they plan to continue to provide on-site and virtual trainings in the 4th year. And then the 4th objective is to focus collaboration with state and national federal agencies and tribal programs to increase awareness on disability services for Arizona tribal nations. They continue, under Wendy, they continue to collaborate with the Department of Labor's Division of Indian and Native American Programs, DNAP, and then provide technical assistance on nationwide accessible training and content. So they plan to increase this awareness on the need to create a comprehensive network of services that address the diverse needs of Native individuals with disabilities, collaborate with higher education institutions, other federal agencies, and tribal programs. And then, as stated, the targeted disparity is really around ensuring that Navajo youth have the employment opportunities by supporting them on training, technical assistance, and resources. And they are in touch with the Navajo youth, with the Navajo Tribal Nation, and then also partner with Project Search, the Tribal State Voc Rehab Employment Services. And what's good about this one is as the target disparity continues through its 5th year, they are going to identify and continue to track the number of Navajo youth with IDD participating in work-based learning, Navajo youth with IDD participating in leadership and advocacy and skill building, and the number of Navajo Nation schools and staff receiving training and technical assistance to ensure that they have the capacity to continue this work past funding when this contract ends. And then to date, they have served 6 Navajo youth that have participated in work-based learning experiences at Window Rock High School. And then 7 Navajo youth have participated in the summer work program, earning the prevailing wage. If you have time to read their full proposal, which is has a lot more information on the various specific activities under each of the objectives, from pages 2 through, I believe it's 5. It's really pretty detailed on how they're going to move forward with this. And it's such a important projects that we have seen over the years grow and continue to meet. And I know that under JC and their program manager that they've hired, that they're going to continue to do further outreach to the tribes. If I could answer any questions.
Okay, I don't hear any questions, and it is an excellent proposal. Thank you, Marcy. All right, hearing no comments or questions, I'm going to call for a motion to approve the Native Center for Disabilities, UA Sonoran, excuse me, from UA Sonoran Center in the amount of $120,000. Do I have a motion?
Aye.
Thank you, Sophie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, was that Vanessa? Who was that?
It was Gabby.
Gabby, sorry. I haven't gotten it right once today. Thank you so much. All those in favor of approval, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. Is anyone abstaining? Okay, thank you so much. Motion carries. Okay, we're going to move on to our committee updates and our work group reports. We're going to make this quick because we do have 2 guest speaker presentations today. So Jana, we're going to have you present first on system access and navigation. If you can just catch us up on what you're doing or what you've been doing.
Absolutely. Let me pull up my notes real quick. Thank you. Thank you so much, Melissa. So our System Access and Navigation Committee met on September 17th this past week, and the goals and the goal for the System Access and Navigation Committee is that we will enhance, strengthen, and expand access to accurate and user-friendly information and the services needed for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to lead more self-determined lives. We were so excited to officially announce that our Get Started guide that we've been working on for I guess a couple of years now, if I'm not mistaken, is ready to be officially launched by the end of this month. We plan to do that after a quick review just to ensure that we don't have any broken links and everything is very state specific. So very, very excited to share that. We also began discussions on the next areas of focus for the committee, and we began a review of 4 existing council activities that kind of fall under this priority area. So more to come. Did I miss anything, Sarah, or committee members? All right.
Doesn't sound like it. Thank you, Jana. That's exciting.
Right?
Good job on that guide. Good job. Okay, next up is me. I'm going to be talking about our Meaningful Careers. Just give you a quick update. So the goal of the Meaningful Careers Committee is that by federal fiscal year 2026, ADDPC will increase the career potential of people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities, or IDD, and link them with resources needed to achieve their career goals. There are 3 objectives that support the goal. The first objective focuses on transition age youth, ages 14 to 22. The second on working age individuals, ages 22 and older. And the third on families and individuals that support them. If somebody could mute their microphone, please. The Meaningful Careers work plan in fiscal year 2024 included 14 activities. And here are the highlights of some of those activities. So we launched Creating a Life Full of Possibilities webinar series in May. The 5th and final webinar, Think College AZ, Expanding Opportunities for Inclusive Higher Education, will be on Wednesday, September 25th from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. So next week. The webinars included sessions on person-centered planning, alternatives to guardianship, project search and work programs, and assistive technology in the workplace. So in addition to sharing information on these important topics, the webinars also helped increase awareness and support for council efforts to assist with transition planning, increase participation, for post-secondary education, and increase opportunities for competitive integrated employment. If you would like to receive a registration link for next week, please contact Jason Sneed or Sarah Roof, our council staffers. We are hosting a family learning session on college opportunities for students with IDD on Thursday, October 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. at Ability 360's Conference Center. We are generating lots of enthusiasm and support for Think College, thanks to our Supporting Inclusive Practices in College project with the Institute for Human Development at NAU. That project has spawned a new collaborative of inclusive post-secondary education programs for students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We created 2 new pathways to the future resources, which complement the 6 that were created last year. Preparing for college and work for refugees with disabilities will be shared with educators, transition specialists, support coordinators, and others to help individuals and families with transition and future planning. The Vocational Rehabilitation and Communities at the Center, or AKA Raising Expectations reports, have been shared with leadership at the Arizona Department of Education, Department of Economic Security, which oversees Division of Developmental Disabilities and Vocational Rehabilitation, and Employment First. Mike Leba will work with representatives from the respective agencies to implement recommendations contained in the reports. And we're hoping they all play well together. We also are exploring a strategy that will focus on empowering consumers with IDD and seeking services. The reports have also been uploaded to the ADDPC website. If you need assistance locating the reports, please reach out to Jason or Sarah. Almost done here. We are working with our partners on promoting October's National Disability Employment Awareness Month, or NDEAM for short. We will disseminate a press release, share Governor Hobbs' proclamation and her support for competitive integrated employment, justice, and fairness for Arizonans with disabilities, issue an employment first policy brief in plain language, create a social media campaign, go Sarah and Jason, featured 3 new videos which highlight personal employment stories. I want to give a special thanks and recognition to Stephanie Johnson with Vocational Rehabilitation for securing the DES Division of Employment and Rehabilitative Services Public Information Office for producing those videos. Thank you. And thanks, Voc Rehab. Finally, Mike Leva is in Tucson to discuss the possibility of partnering with the Sonoran Center for Excellence in Disabilities and the Arizona School for the Deaf and Blind on a new Project Search site in the fall of 2025. That's why he's not here today. Project Search is a unique business-led 1-year employment preparation program that takes place at the workplace. It creates an opportunity for career exploration through various hands-on training in a variety of departments. Participants acquire competitive, transferable, and marketable job skills. 344 interns have graduated from Project Search in Arizona, and 71% of Arizona Project Search graduates obtained competitive integrated employment in 2019. I hope we can make this happen. I want to thank the Meaningful Careers Committee for supporting these and many more activities during the past year. Thank you so much. Okay. No questions, comments? Okay, guys. And my committee, if you have anything, jump in there. But hearing none, we're going to move on to behavioral health and IDD update from Jason.
All right, everyone. I'm going to make this really quick. So if you have any questions about what I say, please reach out to me. But basically, the behavioral health and IDD committee, our job is to bring awareness to the issues between behavioral health and the IDD community, kind of like what the name says. We did do a report, the crisis report, and also a survey with no predictive insights. Several years ago, and that was our year. Actually, the survey was done probably a year ago, and the report was now about 3 years old. So, but I believe it was mentioned in the awarded grantees up above as well. So, and hopefully they use them. So right now what we're doing is and we met with several state agencies and managed care organizations along the process, and we continue to do that. So the 2 things that we're focusing on right now is so one of the individuals is reaching out to police departments to gather data around group homes and their intersection. using interns. She's a professor at ASU. And the one of the other group members is working with is trying to get a cost analysis of a couple, 3 or 4 families to look at the cost between behavioral health and IDD, and working with that, and trying to figure out that it's become a little challenging because there's some barriers within both those things. Because it's hard to figure out billing options for, or the billing amounts for access patients, because they don't get the typical bills that some people do, and it's just difficult. Also, we also been talking to DDD about the disability rights, Arizona Disability Rights Arizona report, the group home monitoring report, and we hope to get some advocacy on that as well. And we do need more. We're going to reach out to additional advocates to see if we can create more change in these issues, and see if we can move our process along a little quicker here. And Melissa and John are part of that group as well. I want to see if they have any updates, but that's a very quick analysis, and if you have any more questions, please reach out to me. So.
No problem. The only thing I would clarify on the medical, Jason, because I'm sure unless you're involved in it, it's kind of confusing. So the point in the cost on the medical is for families to find out how much has been spent if they've had a member that has repeatedly had to go to the emergency room for crisis care, and what have those costs been if they've had to have repeated visits to go in through crisis for the ER, for all the rest of that, versus had they had the treatment in the first place to avoid those hospitalizations or all those ER visits, if they were able to have gotten the treatment that they needed in a non-emergency setting prior to that crisis developing. The point is kind of, if we had good crisis services in place, or better yet, even before that, if we had better and appropriate behavioral health care for people with IDD, providers that were more appropriately trained to work with them, if we could prevent many of those crises in the first place, it would save the system a lot of money, and it would certainly prevent a lot of heartache for those families and the individual. And that's it. But great job, Jason. We got a lot going on. Okay. Thank you so much. Kathy Lewandowski, our work plan review for federal fiscal year 2025 for that year.
Yeah, so if you remember the last council meeting, the council approved the draft of the work plan that we submitted for 2025. And the work plan review committee met with the staff on August 2nd to just see the final version of the, and the reason we did that is because the draft that we approved, the council, we had to get your approval before we had finalized the 2025 work plan, but you also gave us permission to look at it on August 2nd, and then for the work plan review committee to kind of put their final stamp on it. So that has been submitted by August 15th. And I will say the staff have put so much work into it. It's really great. I would encourage all of you to look at the work plan. And the thing that I find really interesting is when you look at each goal at the bottom of each section, like goal 1, self-determination, the things we had to put into the work plan is where our areas of emphasis is on quality assurance. Activity type is our outreach, our training, our TA. Development is informing policymakers. So I think that's a neat way of thinking about each goal and what we're trying to achieve in each of those goals. So we have 5 goals. And so I'd encourage you to look at the bottom of each goal to see what our staff have put in there, because and it talks about other collaborators, the ARC of Arizona, ARC of Tempe, the goal type were advocacy and self-advocacy, collaboration, capacity building. And that kind of helps you to understand really what that goal is all about, or what our aims are for each of those goals.
John and Marcy talked about earlier about, we're going to begin to work on the next 5-year plan. And those are very time consuming. But one of the things and they're starting early because they are so time consuming. And then starting in January, they're going to put together a committee and ad hoc committee and start working on that. But what I would like to encourage you is that if you're interested in working on that committee, let the staff know. It's insightful. You get to see a lot of the needs assessments that are going to be done. And I also am encouraging each committee that we have, that you think about the reports you've received, and are there policies we want to change? Are there things we want our staff looking on the new 5-year work plan? What are some of the things you want them to look at to make sure to check on disparities around the state? But let's take what our reports have said and let's try to move them forward so that we're stepping up. We're taking all the work we've done in the past and how does it inform us to move forward? So that's my soapbox. And that's all I have to say about the work plan. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you. No worries at all. It's important stuff. Okay, thank you, committee leaders. And let's move on to my favorite part of this. We've got 2 guest presentations today. Our first one is going to be from Lynn Tomasa with the, Sonoran Center for Excellence in Disabilities. Lynn is presenting on, as you can see here, sexual violence told through lived experiences of survivors, families, and professionals. I know, Lynn, you have done some major work in this area, and we are so grateful and looking to forward to hear what you have to say today.
Okay, thank you. I'm not really good at Google Meet. Can I ask a favor of Marcy or John to open up my slides for me?
John, can you do that? Or Lonnie? I think John has them.
Okay, so while we're doing that, thank you. We could do the slide mode. I didn't put a lot of detail in today's discussion with you because you do have my report, and I'll just start off by saying thank you very much to all of you for your work and your patience with this project and the report. I know I made John and Marcy very nervous about this. So the first slide, can we get it a little bigger, or
Yeah, I apologize when I'm trying to get it into presentation mode and it's not cooperating. So,
well, that's okay. I think everybody can. I'll start anyway. All right. So I'll shorten up my discussion with you just so that we can just get an overview, and then I want to leave a lot of time for you to ask questions because this is a pretty complex project. So we can go to the next slide.
Sorry, hang on.
No, I'm sorry, I put that on you. Okay, so just real brief, a project overview, some of the important findings and some of the difficult issues and challenges I think that we all know about, and looking next at sort of the recommendations, the next steps, and then open it up to questions. So next slide. I wanted to give you just a quick overview of the very brave and giving individuals that participated in the study. So data collection was during the pandemic. So it was a little difficult to access. Recruitment was challenging in the sense that, flyers, disseminated through a lot of different, websites and programs. It wasn't very successful. It was tough. Recruitment was difficult. We really got participants. My target was at least 25, and we were able to get 26. So a lot of it was through word of mouth. A lot of it was one person's, talking to another person and saying, this might be a good idea. I can assist you with the interview. I can go with you. The Sonoran Center is okay. They will be respectful. So recruitment really was what we would call a snowball, word of mouth, one person encouraging another person. And that worked well. Each of the 26 interviews were 60 to 90 minutes long, and some a little longer. They were taped, they were transcribed word for word. And then a colleague who really volunteered his time, Philip Johnson, as part of the rehab counseling program at the university, he gave a lot of his time and helped with sort of the analysis. It was time consuming to read every word and to sort of put them in groups of ideas. The report, I hope it was easy to follow. I tried to definitely share the experiences of the participants because this is really their project. It's not my project or the center's project. It is their project. It's the voices of those that were there, but also those that we were not able to reach. Okay, next slide. So findings. I hope you got to review or scan it. The data, the experiences are difficult, very difficult to read, to listen to. But one of the primary findings that I just identified here was that sexual violence, inappropriate contact, inappropriate words, intimidation starts or can start and often does start at a very young age. Okay. So just imagine our own lives. We grow up in an environment that may be supportive, may not be supportive, may be fearful, but at a very young age, you're exposed to all of these traumatic events. What does that do to our soul? What does that do to our identity? What does that do to our self-belief and self-confidence? So I think when we talk about sexual violence, we have to look at it in a much broader picture. We have to start thinking early. Who are the trusted individuals in a person's life? But those individuals can also be perpetrators. And it could be partners. It falls under also the trauma of domestic violence. I think the heartbreaking, among many heartbreaking information, is that individuals often suffer multiple incidents. It can be by the same individual, and it can be by multiple individuals. All right. It happens in different settings: work, school, social outings, clubs, organizations, during the day, afternoon, evening, when people are around, when people are not around. All right. Impact. Impact is devastating. It's lifelong. Okay. Everyone heals in their own way. It's a continuous process. I think one of the highlights throughout this whole process is that we really need to do a better job of listening and a better job of believing and observing behaviors. We have policies and laws, whether it's for counseling, for reporting. You see it on television, right? You expect someone to report an incident right away or soon after. That is not realistic. We shouldn't expect that. We need to change our attitudes. We need to change our environment about that. It can take years and often many, many years, okay, for someone to feel safe enough to be able to share their story. Okay, next, please. Families. Families also wanted to share their experiences. You can be the best parent, the most conscientious parent, the most loving and warm parent. But that does not make any family immune to sexual violence. Why? Because we can't control and we don't want to control our family members' life every minute, right? We want them, we talk about integration, we talk about belonging, we encourage social interactions. And so I don't want families to really feel like it's their fault, because it's not their fault. There are all of these other circumstances. Impact on relationships, right? You could have had a wonderful relationship with your son, daughter, family member at one point, but when something traumatic like this happens, it really takes a toll. We all know the impact of social media. It's, you know, there are pluses. We need to learn about it, but then we also need to be a little cautious and educate each other on social media, the uses and the possible dangers. Bullying, that really stood out for me. I remember the bullies in my school, right? I was one that stood up to them, and that's probably what has helped me do my work today. But it's difficult, and bullies continue to be bullies. Okay, so we need to think about that. Sex education, healthy relationships, sex education, that's a topic that, you know, we have a lot of diverse opinions. I think we can look at that, though, as one important strategy for risk reduction. The benefits of counseling, I think we all know at one point or another, we need someone to talk to. We need some support. It's not always difficult to access. You have to have the right fit, a trained individual. So those are some of the challenges and discussion topics. Next. Okay, so if you notice, I really was surprised and pleased at the number of professionals that really wanted to talk. These were individuals that had, you know, 4 to 46 years of working in our systems. So they had not only the historical perspective, but the lessons learned. They saw the changes in resources, the changes in management, the use of data, and staffing was a prominent concern and a prominent issue. All right, staffing, night staffing, vulnerable situations. The data that we collect, is the data useful to administrators to show productivity, or is the data useful in terms of how we address the problem, how the staff feel about what is being collected? If you're working in an organization and you're required to, you know, collect all this information, and you ask yourself what, why, or how, then, you know, maybe we should start looking at it closely. Investigations in the legal system is not victim and survivor friendly. Many cases that are reported do not even go through the system because the individual or the family member or their network has to decide, is it worth it? Can we do it? Training, you know, we are lifelong learners. I continue to learn from everyone that I interact with. Training, there's a lot of good material out there. It's whether the information can be applied or makes sense, or whether there's an opportunity for feedback. So training is tough and it takes a lot of energy. Also, behavioral health services. This is a whole nother topic, but I'm sure we all know that we don't have enough of behavioral health professionals, and we don't have enough of workers in a lot of other important areas. Okay, next. I just want to be aware of my time. So here are some of the issues. It happens everywhere at any time, like I mentioned. Lasting impact. As I said, reporting is difficult. Data is lacking. One of the things I think as we take the next step forward is that there are so many organizations and you are part of them. We do great work. We do it with passion and commitment. Sometimes we don't have the opportunity to share what we learn or share what we're doing. I will go out on a limb a little bit and say that my other hat in the community in Pima County is I've done court investigations for guardianship. I'm one of the court investigators, done that for over 35 years. In order to protect someone's rights and dignities, investigators, whether, whatever, organization you work for, you need information, and sometimes it is so difficult to access. And so you have a limited amount of information, and then you are to make a decision or a recommendation on really something that will impact someone's future. Working with APS has been tough for me. Never get a call back. Even if it's simply saying, sorry, I don't have the information. That's information, right? So I think we need to sort of be transparent and honest about, okay, what can we share? Why can we share? That's a very fine line. I know it's difficult with HIPAA, mandatory reporting, etc. Accessible behavioral health support, I mentioned that. Everyone needs support. Workers need support. I needed support during this report, during the data collection, and I did receive support, and I'm very fortunate for that. One of the things I want all of us to remember is that there are many more hidden victims and survivors. I only reached a very, very small percentage. I am really concerned, and all of the participants communicated verbally, okay? I couldn't reach anybody living in a group home or living in any other type of residential environment. And so that is something that I feel is a very big gap and something that we need to talk about. Okay, next. So sort of, and you will find more detailed information in the report. It's an awareness and support. We all know it happens, all right? So I think the message that it's like when you hear the same message in the same way, in the same format, I think over time you may begin to tune out a little bit. So really looking at getting diverse input, what does this word mean to you? How do you interpret that? How do you feel when I say this word? So public awareness is difficult. So I think if we can put our heads together and find messages that work, but also integrate these messages in other things we do, instead of just, okay, we're going to talk about sexual violence. Well, we can talk about inappropriate bullying in school systems, in, other thing in future planning steps. And so I think we need to be creative and, get input from all of you. ongoing education and training. I know I've heard that, we are really adding more staff to a lot of our larger systems, and that's wonderful. Okay. Excuse me. How do we keep good staff? How do we keep them engaged? How do we provide training where they feel like, this makes sense. I can use it here. This is a screening tool. These are actual questions I can ask. If this set of questions don't work, well, then I can try this set of questions, because we all communicate differently. We all hear the same sentence differently. Remember that game where I'll tell you something, and then by the end, the story or the storyline changed. And so we just need to be aware and integrate those attitudinal skill set in trainings. Services, systems, coordination. I truly believe that systems do want to work together. It could be an issue of time, expectations from management. I have, interacted with workers and professionals in the field that, always say, okay, I have to check with my legal team first. I have to check with my supervisor first. I get it. I'm part of a large system, and so there are definitely protocols and policies that need to be followed. But I just wonder whether it can be more efficient or more transparent. A lot of work to do, a lot of tough issues. I think if we look at addressing sexual violence incrementally and remind ourselves that we are making progress, and document that progress, I think we can definitely move forward. So last slide, just really a lot of questions, maybe a few minutes, if that's okay. Hi, Kin, I think you have your hand up. How are you?
Yes, hi, how are you, Lynn?
Good.
Thank you for asking. So first of all, I was at a meeting recently with the Arizona Commission to end sexual and domestic violence, and they wasn't aware of this project, this research. So I I kind of brought it up and get them to, look at it, and I hope they're going to reach out, they say, so we'll see. So the next question is, after reading the whole thing, and I think it's so excellently done, actually very to actually read it, what the others, some people are going through. And I was so behind my mind. I was thinking that one of the things I realized is there is no immediate support for them when something happens. So I feel that maybe perhaps they can bring, or we can bring, kind of help information to the more easily accessible in public, like in a library, in a doctor's office, and because at the same time, just like, for example, autism. So not everywhere is autism this, autism that, we are aware. But how about in this aspect, if we can bring it up there, and people are like, oh, okay, so we have, help or information if something happens to a member, a family, a friend, information there instead of have to look for it and they couldn't find it. So maybe providing easily accessible information just may help, on bring awareness, because this is a very sensitive topic. They say, oh, I have been sexually violated. It's hard to say, but if they see the information, they're out in the stores, and something they strike, oh, okay, it kind of a little awareness is like, oh, okay, I didn't know there was such information So flyers, you know how we put on the boards and things like that. I think that may help, in my humble opinion. Yeah. So
You're right. You're right. We can do I think a better job of getting information out. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the input.
but thank you
Remember
for
that.
I think this, I mean, this really, bring a lot of awareness to most of us. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. All right. Yeah.
Lynn, hey there, I would just ask you one quick question.
Sure.
And what is it that the council can do to support your work and the community as a whole?
Well, the council has been supportive. I think the hardest thing for any organization is getting the information out to different and making individuals and organizations who are not the core disability community, they need to know the information as well. One of the things that I tell friends or students is that tell one person what you learned today. Talk about this to people, that because we assume people who are not involved or who are not impacted are not interested. Well, they are interested, and they need to be interested. I think it's very difficult to have a report on a website because we search and we access so many websites.
Yeah.
I think printed materials, I myself made a few printed reports, and the center made a few, and I gave it to an attorney. Okay. So, even if I know printing is expensive, but I think we need to start disseminating information in a lot of different ways.
Okay.
And people will not read it online. I like to read like I read a book. So, dissemination, I think we can all do that. We can all share it with, yeah.
Okay. I will give that some thought because I know that we do have a lot of people that work in the legal system that are just clueless when it comes to this. I was personally involved in some cases, so I do know that that is such a challenge. Jana did say, hi, Lynn. Thank you so much for sharing your important work. We teach 2 classes at RSK that address this, and we'll be adding your report to the classes as a companion tool to support the evidence that education is a critical part of prevention. Thank you, Jana.
Thank you. Thank you, Jana.
Okay. And Sarah just did post a link to a news story and said, Lynn was featured last week in community newspaper, The Daily Independent, addressing the report's findings. I did read that. That is true. That was a hard article to read, but informative. Thank you so much, Lynn. You're doing hard work, but really important work. And we'll see what we can do about disseminating a little further. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And Sarah says if anyone wants a copy, she posted her email address if you'd like to see that report directly. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Lynn. We have got to jump on it. We've got one more presentation today from Brittany Chipley. She's the Executive Director for Arizona Achieving a Better Life Experience, or the ABLE accounts, the ABLE program.
Hi.
Brittany, are you ready to share info?
Thank you. That's such a difficult transition, just talking about a subject matter that's just difficult to talk about, but very necessary. So gonna make this transition, which is kind of hard for me, but I know we're coming up on time, so I'm gonna try to make it quick. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen.
Thank you, Brittany.
If it lets me share my screen. Okay. For some reason, I'm gonna have to do the entire screen because it's not letting me share window. And you guys able to see that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Executive Director for AZ ABLE, also known as Arizona's ABLE Plan. I'm just going to give you guys a quick recap of, hopefully you've heard about ABLE, just to let you know what it is. I'm not going to go into all the ins and outs of it because we are on limited time. I'm going to give some updates that some of you may or may not know that have happened since it was since we launched the program and since the legislation was passed back in 2014, and then just let you guys know how we can continue our wonderful partnership. So AZ ABLE is Arizona's ABLE Plan. Right now, there are 46 states, including DC, who have ABLE plans. There are about 30 states or so who are considered national plans, which means you don't have to be a resident of a particular state. And then all the others, you have to be a resident of the state, and such as Arizona. So we're partnered with Ohio Stable, which is the name of their ABLE plan. Just because we really didn't, we were only appropriated a one-time appropriation of $240,000, but by the time I was hired, the board was put together, that money was long gone. So we decided to partner with Ohio. They're not only partnered with us, but they're partnered with 11 other states. But all in all, AZ ABLE is administered under DES, in particular Division of Business Finance, the business services sector of DES. And we launched back in March 2018. We're doing very well. We're ranked #1 amongst all the state-only programs when it comes to the amount of accounts we have. Our average account balance is around 11,500. And our assets under management right now is close to 30 million. So we're doing very well. So let's talk about eligibility. We do have an eligibility quiz, but the first main criteria is that someone has to have a disability that began before turning the age of 26, not necessarily diagnosed before then. Someone can be diagnosed later in life, but as long as they have a development of their disability prior to turning the age of 26, then they will meet that first main criteria. And then they have to be eligible to receive, or one of the following: #1, either be eligible to receive SSI or SSDI due to a disability, or have a condition listed in Social Security Administration's list of compassionate allowances conditions, or self-certification, which is what a lot of people do. Self-certification is just when someone signs up and saying they have been diagnosed with a disability that is listed in Social Security Administration's Blue Book, which lists not hundreds of thousands of conditions are listed there. And a licensed physician has diagnosed them with one of those conditions as listed in SAC's Blue Book, and then they have to certify basically that their condition is expected to last at least a year or more, or it's a permanent disability, which is really these accounts are not for temporary disabilities. Someone has to have a disability that's expected to last at least a year or more, or have a permanent disability. All enrollment is online. It takes approximately 20 minutes. We have a young lady. We really stand by that. Usually we have people who tell us it takes a lot less than 20 minutes. But when it comes to enrollment, who can actually enroll for the beneficiary or the account holder, which is the person with this disability, it can be done by the person with the disability or any authorized legal representative, which is someone with power of attorney, a conservator, someone with legal guardianship, spouse, parent, sibling, grandparent, Social Security rep, payee. That's something that was expanded maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I think coming up on 3 years ago, under the IRS regulations for ABLE accounts. They expanded it. It used to just be a parent, a guardian, or someone with POA, but now you can see that the list has expanded. But it does have some hierarchy in there. So for example, for a rep payee to basically administer the account on behalf of a beneficiary, all those other people listed prior have to be unavailable or unwilling to administer the account on behalf of the beneficiary. And then, of course, the IRS actually did give the beneficiaries basically the autonomy, basically to just choose whoever they want to administer their account. If they don't want to administer on their own, if they don't want to, or they can't administer on their own, they actually have that capacity. They can actually choose whomever to administer their account. Funding. So we know the main reason why these accounts, if you guys don't know, some of you out there, but I know a lot of you do know, the main reason why these accounts came about back in 2014 under the Obama administration is because it helps people overcome that crazy, ridiculous $2,000 asset or resource limit when people go up to sign for benefits. And these are just some figures right now, some numbers right now. Usually, so if the person is not employed, they can actually receive contributions to their account up to $18,000 per year. That is tied to the federal tax exclusion. So usually it goes up every couple of years or so. And then if the beneficiary is employed, they can actually contribute up to an additional $14,580 of their own wages if they're not contributing to, or if their employer is not contributing to some type of retirement account, they're able to do that. And then the lifetime limit is just, that lifetime limit is the lifetime contribution limit that typically goes up, not typically, it does go up every year, about $40,000 to $60,000 per year. Spending has to be done on qualified disability expenses is what the IRS considers, which is basically it has to relate to the disability and help to maintain or improve health independence or quality of life. These are just some examples: housing and rent, basic living expenses, transportation, that could be saving for a car, that could be catching a lift, education, assistive technology, financial management, health and wellness, legal fees. These are just some typical common ones, but it can go beyond that. The definition is broad. There's not a comprehensive list out there. Basically, as long as it's helping the person with a disability live their best life, is what I like to say, then it's going to be considered qualified disability expense. I've had people ask me, well, what about, a vacation? Yes, that could be considered a qualified disability expense. Just the way that people eat, it's just all about how you word it. If someone ever questions you, yep, it relates to my disability, it helps my mental health, it helps me to improve my health, independence, and quality of life. Going to the movies, going to a concert. I had someone ask me about a concert. Yes, the great thing is that I have not heard any issues, and I work very closely with Access for them, because at first they came to me and was saying that, oh, well, going on a cruise or a vacation is not considered qualified disability expense. But I had to point them to the IRS regulations to let them know that that is a possibility, and that's not up to them to decide whether or not that is a qualified disability expense. As long as it relates to the person's disability and helping them live their best life, like I said, it can be considered a qualified disability expense. So let's talk about some latest updates that you guys may or may not know about that has happened within the last year, I would say year to 3 years. So the Able Age Adjustment Act is going to increase that onset age eligibility of 26 up to 46. So come January 1st, 2026, the onset disability age requirement is going to be 46, and we have calculated that millions more people, such as our veterans, will be able to take advantage of these accounts. The latest is here in Arizona is the Arizona Department of Child Safety legislation was passed, coming up on 2 years, which basically said that any child that's in the care of DCS and they're receiving SSI, they have to conserve that child's SSI funds by putting in some type of account. And they gave a list within the legislation, but ultimately DCS decided to do ABLE accounts. So finally, we got all that figured out, because it was going to be not just a lump sum of money, but plethora of accounts that had to be open at the same time. So during the summer, that finally came in. As you can see, we initially had 234 accounts, 1.3 million assets under management, and the average account balance is about $5,700. That was back in, I want to say, May or so. It's a lot more now, but that was the initial accounts and funds. And then now, and this just only pertains to AZ ABLE and those who are partnered with Ohio Stable, is that those who have ABLE accounts and are receiving some type of Social Security check, and they can actually directly deposit their Social Security directly into their ABLE account. We now have that capability. And then within the past couple of years, if you guys are not familiar, legislation was passed here in Arizona where if someone, whether you're filing single or married filing jointly, and you contribute to an ABLE account, you can actually deduct those contributions on your taxes, and it's up to $2,000 per account per beneficiary if someone who's filing as single, and then up to $4,000 per account per beneficiary for those who are married filing jointly. So I just want to go through these maps really quick. And this is just for only pertains to Arizona. And this is as of the end of June, where you can see kind of where and this is active accounts. So these are only accounts that are currently active, which means they have money in the accounts that people are actually, doing some type of transaction. It does not pertain to accounts that are pending, which means ready, that have just opened their account and waiting on getting funding, etc. And as you can see in Maricopa, contains the most active accounts. And then on your own time, you guys can kind of compare and contrast the other counties out there. And then this just shows the percentage of change of active accounts from month to month as of end of June. So Yavapai went down 2%. That's what that negative means. Maricopa 23, it increased 23% of active accounts. And then this is just shows the assets under management in each account. As you can see, 17.3 million. Maricopa is in Maricopa, and then next would be HEMA. And that also shows the change. And it's kind of, as you can see with Yavapai, even though the active accounts went down, the assets under management, the amount of money in the accounts went up. And this just shows a broader of how Arizona and Ohio and all the partners and non-partners, just the data that's showing how each state is doing out there. And that's, again, the assets under management. And this is 24, but right now, last time I checked, we're close to 30, because as I said, this is the end of June. So how can we continue to spread the message with you guys? Well, you guys have been a blessing when it comes to AZ-ABLE. Work very closely with Sarah and Jason, setting up various events and webinars and all that good stuff. So I would just say, just continue. We appreciate you guys' help, and as you continue to help us, that would be great with our social media campaigns. We just came off a campaign in August celebrating the National Able Savings Day. And I know you guys ran some of your stuff with us. And then just continue to school partnerships. And then I'm working with John with trying to include AZ-ABLE information in IAP. There are a couple of states out there, such as Illinois and most recently Maryland and Rhode Island. Now the legislation requires them to require school districts to include ABLE information in IAP packages and meetings. And just, if you guys, I can't be everywhere, it's just me, unfortunately. So if you guys can continue to include AZ-ABLE brochures, and I know that you guys came up with a wonderful brochure that's very, very detailed, and that I know, so I know you guys already do that, and just continue to do, keep our brochures and informations at all of your events and any events that you attended. I know I hear a pop-up, but I can't see it. So when I finish, I'll try to take a look if it's a question pertaining to me, and then just continue to promote all the AZ-ABLE webinars. So I'm gonna start sharing right there, because that's the end, and I know we're coming up.
There are lots of things we can do to continue to share. Thank you, Brittany. A couple things. It looks like Vanessa Felix asked if you could drop your email in the chat, because she would like to connect with you. And if not, it'll be there for other people too.
Yes, please.
Okay, Vanessa, she'll post that for you. We have two questions. The first is from Ken. ABLE, how are the money in the account protected against fraud, if any?
Oh, yes, that's a lot of fraud in there. So you have the multi-factor, all that stuff. And then people, so you have a multi-factor check that a lot of accounts have out there. People have the option of whether or not, if they feel like something, or if whoever, if our account manager feels like there's something fraud going on and how to get in touch with people right away, people can either, have an email sent to them, but, the quickest way also is to have a text message come to them or give them a call to let them know that maybe a large purchase have been made on their account. And then another great thing about with us is that it does come with an optional debit card. And with the optional debit card, people have the opportunity it's loadable. So you only need load the amount of money you want on the card. So it's not like if I have $500 in my Bank of America account, I know that $500 is accessible on my debit card. But if someone is trying to prevent fraud or just trying to be proactive, you don't have to load the entire 500 on there. If you're just going out for dinner for the day, maybe just load 100 on there. So there's various ways. If you go on our website, we have a whole section about fraud on there, and it's az-able.com, and I'm going to put that on there in the chat too.
Okay, thank you. On the link on there. A couple things. Ken says thank you.
You're welcome.
Gabby Orozco did say Brittany did an amazing presentation for Gagne. Give you lots of claps for that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Then Sophie, do you still have a question?
Yes. Do you know the name Rebecca Monteleone?
Oh, well, I don't know. Does that have anything to do with our presentation?
What's the Rebecca Monteleone?
No, I'm not familiar. I'm sorry.
She lives in Toledo and she talks about disability stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with her. But if she does have questions about it, I did drop my information in there. Just certainly have her reach out to me. And then we can go from there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Sophie. All right, see you, CJ. We know you got to go. All right, are there any other questions for Brittany? And if not, she did post her email in the chat along with the website that you can ask. Thank you, Brittany. I'm sorry we had to keep it so brief today.
That's okay. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much, and we'll continue to make info available. Okay, moving on to agenda item G. I do know that we are 1 minute over time, so we will wrap this up quickly. Does anybody have any announcements that they would like to make or share?
I do.
Okay, Sophie?
John, it's my award. I wanted to say that on the meeting, and
What did you get an award for?
So my mom got the award, but it was at the National Down Congress conference. And I didn't know that I was gonna go on stage with my mom, and that was a total surprise. And she gave me the award right then. And then when I went back to my seat, John took it and says, "No, it's mine." And I go, "No, it's mine." So it's up on my shelf right now, John. And if you try to take it, I'll put it in a safe, and I won't tell you the code.
Okay, well, it sounds like it's going to be safe from John. You got to watch him, don't you?
Oh, I'm gonna hide it so bad, but he cannot find it. But it's not hard to say.
Well, thank you. Congratulations to your mom, and congrats to you. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Miss Sophie, we have a few other hands that are raised in here. I do believe, JJ, I know you definitely raised your hand. I saw that one go up.
I did, but I put it down. But I'll just quickly say we have a voting training next week that we'll push out. And I know that DDPC's pushed it out, and we'll push it out through our social channels. So there'll be more there. So I'll be quick and brief and just say follow and look and register. Lunch is provided, and then you can attend virtually if you're not able to attend person. So.
Okay, thank you so much for letting us know. I know there's others. Jesse, I see your hand. I can only see 9 frames on here. Go right ahead. Bye, Gabby. Jesse, did you have a question or a comment you wanted to make?
Are you all able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Now we can hear you.
This is Jessie from ADHS. We're partnering up with Dr. Decker from DDES, who's their Chief Medical Officer, to start a subcommittee for vaccine hesitancy and just vaccine awareness. in the developmental disability community. This is a project that's being championed by DES with the immunization partners, as well as myself and Antonio Hernandez, who some of y'all may know. It's the first virtual meeting will be in October. If anybody's interested, I have dropped my email in the chat. Please email me. I know that John and a couple of other folks have told me they're interested. So looking forward to a great group. End of report.
Okay, Jesse, thank you so much. I see your email in there. Jana just did announce, if I can find this real quick. Where'd you go? Upcoming Transition Institute, all in Spanish on October 12th. And she posted the link above that, if you would like that. Okay, do we have any other announcements? Did I miss anybody? Okay, thank you all so much. We do have public on here. One more thing, call to the public, agenda item H. I know we've had some public members on here. I think our one parent left. Any comments or questions by any other members of the public, not a council member or staffer? Okay. Okay, Jesse does say if you're coming to the AZ Silk conference on Monday, there will be free vaccines and resources and an opportunity to sign up for a vaccine clinic. Thank you, Jesse. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We're only 5 minutes over. That's not bad considering all we did today. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you all soon or in committee meetings. Thank you.
My awards on.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye, everybody.